Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the 2018 Distinguished Alumni Awards Ceremony. My name is Jed Liston, and I am President and CEO of the Alumni Association. Before we begin, I would like to thank Bonnie Curran and Brandy Reinhardt for providing the sign language interpretation for this program. Please join me. Strong traditions and the memories that bring alumni and friends back to the university are alive this evening. We are honored to have fellow alums, families, and friends here to be celebrated. The 5 Distinguished Alumni Award recipients we celebrate tonight are remarkable individuals who have brought honor to and to themselves through significant contributions to their fields. Affirmed by President Bodner, the Alumni Association's Board's Recognition Committee has chosen these individuals from numerous annual nominations. This evening, we will have the unique experience of hearing some of their thoughts on education, life after college, and how their personal experiences at shaped their prestigious careers. The discussion will be moderated by Moraine Byrne, Chair of the Recognition Committee of the UMAA Board of Directors. Please allow me to introduce to you our Distinguished Alumni Award winners. Evelyn Yeye Dada came to U of M as an international student and a leader in economic development. She began her career in 1973 with the New Nigerian Development Company and worked for a short time with the U.S. Peace Corps and the British Council. She served for more than 20 years with the United Nations throughout Africa, the Middle East, and Europe. And her bio includes many significant accomplishments with the UN Children's Fund and the Food and Agricultural Organization. Evelyn continues to serve with the UN after her retirement, and in 2016 she received a merit award from the king of her hometown, Egbe, Nigeria, for her contributions to the town's development. Evelyn Yeye Dada. Paul Lewing has followed his childhood dream and worked as a professional artist in Seattle since 1972. Specializing in pottery and ceramic tile, he has created more than 1,000 custom projects for all over the world, including for dignitaries in Sweden and Japan. Paul has written 2 books on the ancient technique of China painting, and he has painted numerous beautiful murals all over the world. His colorful tile works include everything from church murals to shower walls, and his collections are in institutions from the Seattle Art Museum to the Igneti Tayedes Foundation in the Dominican Republic. He also has taught art and ceramics to thousands of students and presented seminars in every U.S. state. Paul Lewing, everyone. Sarah Peck has integrated education and marine ecology throughout her life's work. Passionate about coral reef ecosystems after working at the Waikiki Aquarium in Hawaii, she established a charter school focused on science and technology at the Natural Energy Laboratory of Hawaii Authority. As an education specialist for the University of Hawaii and Hawaii Sea Grant Extension Agent, Sarah has published many articles on marine science and established programs and educational resources to help protect the reefs surrounding Hawaii. The state of Hawaii and several foundations have recognized her, including the Natural Energy Laboratory with its Lifetime Achievement Award. Sarah Peck. William Marcus came to from the small town of Webo, Montana, and has devoted 4 decades to capturing the stories of his home state. He helped develop Montana PBS before public television existed in Montana and bridged the divide between and Montana State University in that effort. As director of Montana Public Radio, Montana PBS, and UM's Broadcast Media Center, he brought student work on air. William is well known for his Backroads of Montana series on Montana PBS, and his documentaries have earned him 4 regional Emmy Awards. In 2010, his Night of the Grizzlies had the most viewers of any Montana public television program. Now retired, William still serves as an active volunteer with Montana PBS, Montana Public Radio, and the Montana Arts Council. William Marcus, everyone. Sheila Skemp is a history scholar and a groundbreaker in her field. She has taught for more than 40 years at 4 different colleges and universities and won Outstanding Teacher Awards in 1985, 1990, and 2009. She is praised as a mentor by colleagues at Stanford, Princeton, University of Michigan, Fordham, and more. Sheila's work focuses on the colonial and revolutionary periods in American history, especially on the little-known illegitimate son of Benjamin Franklin. She has authored 6 books, with 2 focusing on William Franklin, and currently is the Marquette Chair in American History at the University of Mississippi, one of its highest honors. Sheila Skemp, everyone. And now it's my pleasure to introduce the UMA Board Chair, Wayne Nelson. Wayne is a Missoula native who is now president of Stockman Bank in Billings. He earned a bachelor's degree in finance from UM's School of Business Administration and worked for the U.S. Treasury before entering private sector banking. He's been with Stockman Bank since 1998 and lives in Billings with his wife, Kim, and daughter, Abigail. Wayne Nelson, everyone.
Well, thank you, Jed. Good evening, everyone. This is going to be a great event. If you haven't been here before, you're in for a treat. If you've been here before, obviously you know what this is all about. I had the opportunity to spend some time at some receptions today with each of these distinguished alums. Very wonderful people, remarkable careers, and I can't wait to get this panel started so you can learn more about them. We've got a number of special guests here tonight who are very important to the university and the Alumni Association. We'd like to recognize them. What I'd like to do is introduce these groups and have you hold your applause until everyone is standing, please. So here tonight with us are past recipients of the Distinguished Alumni Award. If you would stand. Yep, members of the University of Montana Alumni Association's House of Delegates. This is a network of dedicated volunteers from around the country. If you would stand. We've got current and past members of the Alumni Association's Board of Directors. If you would please stand. ASUM President Alex Butler, Vice President Mariah Welch, and Business Manager Andrea Schaefer. If you'd please stand. And now, to lead this evening's panel discussion, I'd like to introduce Maureen Byrne, Chairman of the Recognition Committee on the University of Montana Alumni Association. I've had the opportunity to work with Maureen for a number of years on this board, so I'm looking forward to her moderating this discussion tonight. Maureen is a native Montanan, originally from St. Ignatius on the Flathead Indian Reservation. She was the first in her family to go to college, and she graduated from the University of Montana in 1978 with a degree in journalism and radio TV. Maureen worked as a reporter and producer for 3 national public radio affiliates before completing her graduate studies in healthcare administration at the University of Minnesota. Maureen started her consulting business in 1993, serving senior living and aging services. She holds the distinction of working in all 50 states. What's interesting, serving on the board, we would hear from time to time to board meetings, it was number 46, number 47, 48, until she got to 50, and she finally got her done. So Maureen, thank you.
Thank you, Wayne. As you may see in your program, Larry Abramson is listed as tonight's moderator, and unfortunately, Larry is having back pain and couldn't moderate this evening, so I'm the backup. Oh. We have had William Marcus moderate in the past, but we really felt it was probably best this year, since he's a distinguished alumnus himself, not to be the moderator, but we've told him next year is a whole different story. Yeah. We're going to jump around a little bit with some questions, and what I've done was to go through your information. Serving on the recognition committee, I was fortunate enough to read a lot of great information about these distinguished alumni, and we're just really pleased that you're here. So we are going to start with Paul. Paul, you stated that it was your dream as a young boy to become an artist, but I think I also heard you say you had never painted before you came here, or had not really done art. So how did you decide to come to Montana and to study art?
Well, it's not exactly true.
Okay.
I had started painting in oils when I was 8. So when I came here as a freshman, I had already been painting for 10 years, but I had no art classes in either grade school or high school. I had had a painting class at a community center for about a year before I came to Montana for college, and that was the only art lessons I'd ever had. But I didn't actually feel like I chose art. I actually felt like it chose me. I didn't feel like I had a choice.
And how did you come to the University of Montana? You were from Ohio.
Yeah, well, I was born in Ohio, but I fled at the earliest opportunity, vowing never to return. My parents brought us here on vacation when I was 12, and it was kind of like being born again, seeing mountains. I was never happy without mountains again, so.
Well, we're glad you came here. You have told us that the artist who sculpted the grizzly on the oval
Right.
was one of your mentors, one of several. What can you tell us about that artist and how he provided mentorship to you?
Well, that was Rudy Audio, and when I came to University of Montana, I was going to be a painter. I was going to be Thomas Moran when I grew up, and I had never heard of ceramics as an art form. It took me a little while to realize that I had stumbled into something truly extraordinary. And Rudy Audio was one of the most seminal figures in the history of ceramics of the world. And here he was teaching at the University of Montana, and he was also one of the most universally loved people I've ever met. And so I kind of switched from painting to ceramics because of him, because you got to play with fire, you got to play with mud, you got to play with chemistry, and it looked like it was going to be easier to make a living doing that. So I owe Rudy a lot. He introduced me to this amazing community of clay artists, and he took me into graduate school when every other place rejected me because I was really bad. And he gave me an assistantship when I was about halfway through college, or through graduate school, when I had another alternative that I was thinking about doing. He got me my first teaching job right out of graduate school, and he attracted this amazing group of students around him, one of whom was Ruth Ashley, who I've been married to for 47 years. So, so yeah, I owe Rudy a lot.
Sounds like it.
Yeah.
Paul, you've made your living as an artist all these years. Has your art changed during the course of your profession?
Yeah, I mean, it took this like major left turn from painting to ceramics in the first place, and the first 20 years or so that I worked in clay, I made functional pottery. I've made my 10,000 coffee cups, and then I decided to kind of go back to painting and go with my strength and keep doing clay, but go to painting, which is why I started doing the tile work, and I've been doing that for 30 years, more than 30 years, and 10 years or so ago, I've gone back to painting, and I'm painting with acrylic paint again. So I've, kind of followed what I wanted to do the most, basically, all my life.
And has technology changed your art? The way that you create art?
Not a whole lot. It's an ancient art form. one thing that has changed about it is that I got pretty well known as a glaze chemist, and I learned how to do the calculations for it with a slide rule when I was here, and now you can do it on computer. And so that's about the only thing that's changed.
That's a pretty big change.
Yeah, it is.
What advice would you have for young, aspiring artists?
Marry well. You know, whenever I had a student that said they were thinking about becoming a professional artist, the first thing I always asked them was, well, if that doesn't work, what are you going to do? And if they said, no matter what they said, I would say, you should do that. Because the people who are going to make it, at the age of like 19, when you ask them that question, they just kind of go, I don't know. They have no plan B. And that's...
It's good to have a plan B.
No, it's good to not have a plan B.
There you go. Good. Thank you, Paul. Appreciate it. Sarah, yes. Sarah, I have a few questions for you. They are different than Paul's. None of the distinguished alumni receive their questions in advance, and they've been just asking me and asking me. So no, this is all off the top of their head. So Sarah, you have an education degree.
Yes.
And you've been recognized very highly for your work in ecology and marine and reef preservation. How has your education degree really helped you in that particular area?
Well, it turns out that when you're trying to build a constituency that's supportive of a concept, which would be, in our case, preserving the reefs, then you really do have to use education. You have to provide free public education, just for years. In fact, this does not happen overnight. And other venues to educate people, hands-on types of events, so that all throughout, even, everywhere, everything I did really involved education in one way or another. You were bringing in educators, researchers to talk to people. You were constantly researching to make sure that the information you were giving people was correct, that kind of thing. Does that answer your question?
Oh, absolutely. Thank you. I've had the pleasure of diving and snorkeling off Maui and several times off the Big Island of Hawaii. And this is a huge question, but feel free to, to shorten it down. What key message do you want the public to know about reef preservation and marine preservation?
You're right. Big question. Yeah. Here in Montana and all throughout most of the United States, except the coastal communities of our, of America, I think people feel quite a distance from the ocean. I mean, they don't even think about the ocean. They don't contemplate what might be happening when something goes wrong, other than hurricanes, things like that, natural disasters. And I would like to encourage people throughout the United States who are land-bound to every now and then give our oceans some thought, read about them, read the newest information that scientists have developed. And it wasn't long ago, 50 years ago, when Jacques Cousteau really brought us, the ocean to us, to our televisions. And ever since then, we've been a little more aware, but we still are being landlocked just isn't in your head to immediately think about that. So as you use plastics, as you think about petrochemicals, things like that that might be in use, think about where they might end up, and hopefully you'll help in some small way to preserve our oceans.
Thank you. You took that big question and gave us a great answer. Appreciate that. You now live in Montana, so you are now landlocked, at least from the oceans. I believe you live near Flathead Lake. How do you keep your passion for the reef preservation and the ecology alive, and how do you now get that passion and that information back to students and to the public here?
Well, there are times when, of course, I keep up with what's going on all the time. My cousin Charles Lubrecht, if he's here somewhere. Are you here, Charles? I can't see if we hear. Okay. Okay. He always sends me really interesting articles that are more in depth. He keeps finding things like that for me. And then the other thing, every now and then, I'll give a coffee, let's say. And this one time, I was going to have a coffee for women, a bunch of women in the lakeside community, and I told them they were going to learn about coral sex. And they didn't even think corals had sex. So and so that certainly interested them, and that kind of got them thinking. So little things like that you can do now and then.
And did you have a big turnout?
Oh, yeah.
I'll bet you did. Thank you so much, Sarah. Sheila, we'll turn to you now.
Okay.
Your career has been immersed in the study of history. And from your perspective, how is studying history relevant to today's world and to today's issues?
I would say, if nothing else, it gives you perspective. It helps you to be comfortable with the fact that things change, and that doesn't necessarily mean it's always bad. It also helps you understand, today we're talking about tribal America and how we don't get along and we can't talk to each other, and people are saying, it's never been like this before. Well, it has. If you look at the period right after the American Revolution, when political parties just got started, people would literally cross the street rather than face somebody that they knew who was from a different party than theirs. There were bars where only people from either the Republican Party or the Federalist Party could enter. There were banks where you had to declare your political beliefs before they would let you put money in their banks. We haven't gotten that far yet. So I think it helps you be a little bit more comfortable with the kinds of changes that we're seeing in our own lives.
Good, good. And how did you come to the study of history? How did you decide to do that here at University of Montana?
I had wonderful teachers. I had wonderful teachers in junior high. I had a fantastic in high school who was getting his PhD in history from Northwestern University. And he just made me think that this was what I wanted to do. My parents were both school teachers, and we traveled in the summertime, and we went to various historical preservation sites, and I think that helped history come alive to me. I've just always liked it. I'm like you. It chose me. I didn't choose it. In fact, there are times when I think I would have rather I'd chosen something else, but yeah, just couldn't do it.
Great. I know that you have spent a good amount of your career studying colonial history and some of the specific history that Jed mentioned here. What elective classes would you recommend to history majors at the university now to give them a broader understanding of history and today's world?
Could you repeat that question? My hearing isn't that good.
Oh, that's fine. You've studied the
Yeah.
colonial history, and specifically Benjamin Franklin and his heir. What kinds of elective classes would you suggest to today's history majors to help broaden their understanding of the world and what they should be going out to do in the study of history?
I think what you have to, they should look at things from as diverse a perspective as possible. When we were going to school back in the day, we talked about only the elite, and we talked about mainly Americans. And I think that history has developed to the point where we're looking at things from the bottom up. We're looking at gender, we're looking at race, we're looking at class, and looking at those things from the perspective of the past helps you, again, to understand what's going on today and to have a more meaningful understanding of people.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Evelyn.
Yes.
I'm clapping you.
Can you tell that our distinguished alumni have gotten to really know each other in the last few days? It's been wonderful to watch. So Evelyn, you made a significant decision to come across the world and to come to the University of Montana. What brought you here?
To expand my horizon, to add knowledge to what I add, to be more effective.
How did you hear about the University of Montana?
From one of the professors who was a visiting professor in my university back in Nigeria, and who was one of my teachers back in Nigeria, and who said, "You are one of the outstanding students here, and I want to recommend that you go to the University of Montana for your graduate study." And I said, "Where is Montana?" I mean, I've heard of other New York and all those big. And I came. He recommended to me in 1980. By January 1982, which was a wrong choice. I shouldn't have come in January. I came January 82 in the middle of winter. I didn't know what was winter. But I thank God that I came. And the degree I had made me to be what I am today, to the glory of God.
So besides the snow and the cold, what else surprised you about Missoula and the University of Montana?
The fact that not just the university itself, but the entire community, there were very, very few blacks. And I was just wondering how I will cope with my dark skin, you know. Will I really be accepted? Will I fit into the community? But I think if I have a choice to have a home outside of Nigeria, Missoula will be my choice.
Wow, that's nice.
I was really fascinated to read about your economic development experience in Nigeria and the work that you've done for 2 decades, I believe, or more, with the United Nations. What were some of the biggest challenges that you faced when you went back and started working with the United Nations?
One of the challenges of working with the United Nations, and not just for me, but for most of the staff, is the volume of work that you have to do. You are paid the salary of 5 people to do, you are paid the salary of 5 people, and you are alone to do the 5 people's job. I don't know if you get me clear. The salary is big, but you are supposed to do 5 people's jobs. So no rest. We work round the clock. So it's a lot of challenge, but in a way it's a positive challenge because it makes us to be workaholics. Yeah. And especially when you are dealing with serious issues, emergency issues, you can't afford to dilly-dally, and a lot of the work we do in the United Nations are emergency in nature, trying to rescue life, trying to provide food for, So you have to just be on your toes all the time.
And I believe you said even though you are officially retired, that you still get calls to step forward and assist. Is that correct?
Yes, you are very correct. I retired April 2014, and 4 months after my retirement, they called me back, and I said, I'm supposed to be retired. But it's a privilege to call you back. The rule says you don't get called back until after 6 months that you are retired. But in my own case, 4 months after I was called back.
Short retirement.
Yeah, I jumped at it, and I went back to Nigeria trying to put up something to do for myself. And before I could say Jack Robinson, they called me back again. But it's very humbling, and I just thank God for that, because it meant that they saw some qualities that I can pass on, that I can continue to contribute to the team, and I'm ever grateful to them. I served for 2 years in Ethiopia as a retiree consultant, and just returned back to my country in April. And my suitcase is packed because they can call me back at any time. So I already have it always packed.
Good, you're prepared. Yes. Well, I understand that your son-in-law is considering the University of Montana as a potential location for graduate school. He's not said for sure, but I would like to know what would you say to international students that are considering coming to Montana? What advice would you give them?
Don't hesitate, go for it. Just go for it, because you have a lot to gain. My son-in-law, we flew in together from Nigeria on Wednesday evening, after leaving Nigeria the previous Tuesday evening. And then on Thursday morning, we just took him around the campus, and he just fell in love. Wow. And he said, Mom, I'm going to do my graduate study here. I said, come with your entire family. Your wife and 2 children, bring them. Bring them along for the graduates. We have married students housing, Yeah.
That's right.
So I think it's, for the international students that are here, I think it's a great privilege, and we should not just come here and go. We should encourage others to also come here. It's a great university. It is a great university.
Okay. Thank you very much, Evelyn. And William, I saved you for last. You noticed that, right?
Okay.
I had the privilege of learning from William when I was in radio television. He had started it when he graduated in '74 with the university, and I started my studies about 4 months later, and really had the privilege of working with William and learning from him. He told me I was not to tell any stories, no stories. But I always saw William as very creative and professional, and he had a very quick wit to handle any situation that came up and was always calm and collected. But things do go wrong in interviews and live broadcasting. Are there any things that you might want to share with us tonight that you recall? Not about me.
Well, you're always constantly worried that the interview that you're doing is either not being recorded or that you're thinking about the next question when the person just said something really interesting that you forgot to follow up on. You get back and you start logging the tape and listening to it, and there's just a constant criticism of learning to just listen to people. As an example of something that can go wrong and the wrong way to do an interview, I'll tell a story on someone else. I was in the studio running the controls when a reporter from Mississippi was interviewing Richard Ford, who was to receive an arts award in Mississippi. So he was doing an interview. And the reporter said, "You know, Mr. Ford, I haven't had the opportunity to finish your book. Could you tell me how it ends?" And Richard said, "No," in his way. And it was just like, oh my God, I'm so glad that I will never ask a question like that. I mean, every opportunity to talk to someone like that is, you never know what's going to happen. And I always have told my students that when you're interviewing someone and they don't quite give you the right answer, you just kind of look at them with kind of a quizzical, what do you mean? And then they will tell you exactly what you want to hear. So.
Oh, a tip to learn tonight. Okay, see? I said I always learn from you, William. William has spent his professional career, as you heard, telling stories and bringing them to the people of Montana. And last night, and I told William this, but he's a very humble person, last night a Montanan told me that he was a Montana treasure. So we all know that, but I know you're very humble about it. I'm curious what stories over the years have meant the most to you.
I've had the pleasure of working with, on the Backroad Show, for instance, with 3 really talented storytellers, Gus Chambers and John Twiggs and Ray Eckness, who are the workers, the people who really go out and find those incredible stories. I've been able to do a few of them, and certainly one of my favorite stories was with Jean Robel, who was a jazz pianist who lived in Hamilton. Grew up in Hamilton, went to New York to pursue her dream as a jazz pianist, and went to a club because she wanted to take lessons from Teddy Wilson, who was a famous jazz pianist. And she went back and back and back to talk with Teddy Wilson to please give me lessons, because she really wanted to play like he did. And she said, finally, "If you don't give me lessons, I'm going back to Montana." And Teddy Wilson said, "Montana? My wife's from Anaconda." So he gave her lessons, and the lesson that he taught her in the end was that you can't play like me. You have to play like yourself. You have to find your own voice. And it was just, she was such a mentor to young jazz musicians. The Big Sky Mudflaps, you know, count her as a very important person in their lives. So, but in the Backroads series, to be able to sit down and talk to people who are no longer with us, you know, to have that history, to have their experience and share their stories has been a really wonderful experience.
I learned something today about you related to piano. Can you tell us a little bit about how you got to Missoula from Webo?
Sure. And I'll explain more of this later on when I give my comments, but my parents wanted me to go to Eastern Montana College because it was halfway between Missoula and Webo. And I took piano lessons all my life and had a piano teacher in Baker, so I would drive my father's 1968 Ford Fairlane 110 miles an hour down Highway 7, which is arrow straight for like 8 miles, nobody on it. And anyway, so I always would, I told my mother that if she let me come to the University of Montana, I would take piano lessons. And I did. I studied with John Ellis, and that lasted about a year, but it helped get me here.
Good. We're glad you came here.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes. Last week I was at a conference in Denver, and we had a panel of journalists, and they were posed the question of what does it mean when you hear, or how do you feel even, when you hear that journalism is dead? What's your response to that statement?
Journalism is dead?
Is dead.
I would say no, it's not, it's not dead. I mean, journalism to me is more vital and more important than it ever has been. And one of the best things for me to listen to Montana Public Radio now is to hear the young voices on it. Because there was a point there where we were all graying out on the air. And even on the fundraiser, you would hear us say the same things over and over and over. And now there are younger voices, there's more energy there, and a lot of that interest is in the news portion of it, which I think is great. I think that public media is going to be increasingly important as a trusted source for news for us, and that young folks are attracted to that and can find a home at Montana Public Radio is all I could hope for.
Okay, thank you. Now, you're usually in this chair.
Yes.
So how does it feel to be there tonight?
I'm very honored by this. Jed called me, and I had moderated the last 2 years, so I just automatically said yes, because I thought that was the question. And then he said, no, I think you're going to have a different role this time. I would rather ask the questions than answer them, frankly, which is obvious, I think. But I hope to return to that role next year.
And we'll be pleased that you do. Okay. Well, just one final round of applause. Probably not final, we'll have more later. But again, for all of our panelists, thank you so much, and for putting up with the questions. Okay. Now, I'm doing multiple roles tonight, too. So I will share a little bit of information about the Legacy Scholarship. And I wanted to just share with you briefly a little bit of information and to give you an opportunity to think about becoming a donor to the Legacy Scholarship Fund. I have the honor of serving on the Alumni Association Board and as the Recognition Committee Chair. Our charge is to recognize and select the Distinguished Alumni Awardees out of a very large pool of nominees. I also am really privileged that our committee has applicants from students, applications where they fill out information, they provide a lot of information. They also respond to a question that we provide them in an essay form. And they must be students who have completed at least 60 credits and have had a family member who has attended the University of Montana. And that is why it's called the Legacy Scholarship. It's carrying on the legacy. I'm pleased to share a little bit more information about who our recipients are this evening. But as I first said, I'd like to give you an opportunity to consider making a gift to the Legacy Scholarship Fund. The money that we give each year to students is actually the interest that comes off of a fund that is invested. And the only way that we can continue to increase the scholarships that are given each year is to have an increase in the fund. So if you should have any interest in giving to the fund or have any questions about it, please ask Jed, Wayne, or myself. We're happy to answer questions. And you can designate funds to that. So that is my pitch to you this evening. I wanted to also take just a few minutes to, again, thank our Legacy Scholarship recipients for coming. In years past, we've recognized them by asking them to stand, but what we realized is that these are just incredible students. And they are so involved in so many things. So I have just a little bit of information I'll share with you about each one of them. It's a highly competitive field. We usually have between 25 and 30 applicants. I'm not even sure that you ladies knew that, but it's highly competitive, and our committee looks very closely at all of the applications. So it's my pleasure to mention our recipients this evening. Our first recipient is not here this evening. She is studying abroad. It's Tess Gallagher Clancy. She's a history major. She has worked as a counselor and a volunteer for Reinvest Montana, the Global Exchange Partner, dance performer, and more. And she plans to attend graduate school for intellectual and cultural history and theology. And she is studying in Cork, Ireland, and sends her regrets for not being here tonight, but I'm sure she's having a wonderful time. Secondly, Dusty Keim. Would you please stand? Dusty is an English literature and creative writing major, is the recipient of multiple scholarships and national awards. She acts as a peer mentor for the Davidson Honors College. She plays for the concert band and plans to become a teacher or professor. We'll hold our applause until the end.
No, hold it.
Lexi Clowder. Lexi studies pre-physical therapy while volunteering with ASUM, the School of Physical Therapy, intramural volleyball, and the concert band. She developed and directs the Missoula Monologues project to open the dialogue about victims of sexual assault. The next person is Angela Lemire. Angela is a biology major, a certified nursing assistant, and emergency medical technician. She has worked in New York, Washington, D.C., the Honduras, and France, and plans to serve as a physician assistant nationally and internationally after graduate school. Hannah Peprock. Hannah is an anthropology major, and she established UM's Mental Health Allies to help offer financial assistance to students seeking counseling. She holds multiple leadership roles and hopes to earn a master's degree in public health, focusing on community health and prevention services. And lastly, but not least, of course, is Daisy Ward. Daisy Ward studies political science, Spanish, big data analytics, and global leadership. Wow. She is politically involved on campus and interned for Senator John Tester. Daisy will use her Spanish-speaking skills during an internship in Barcelona next summer. So please, ladies, all stand, and we'll give you a round of applause. Thank you very much. Thanks. Thank you.
There are 3 additional students in the audience tonight whom we'd like to recognize. Each year, the University of Montana Alumni Association selects homecoming ambassadors from a pool of student applicants based on academic achievement, participation in service organizations, and personal commitment to campus and the community. This year, 3 students are being recognized as the 2018 Homecoming Ambassadors. I would like to ask them to stand and be recognized, and we can applaud as they stand. I'm okay with that. First of all, Autumn Drake. Autumn is a senior majoring in sociology and psychology. She is a proud member of UM's Davidson Honors College and the International Honor Society for Sociology. She will graduate with her undergrad degree in 3 years. After finishing up a semester abroad in Ireland, Autumn is excited to be back in Montana and honored to serve as a UM Homecoming Ambassador. Autumn Drake, everyone. Miranda Henrick. Miranda is a senior studying organizational communications and nonprofit administration. She serves as one of the coordinators for the UM Advocates and has volunteered with the Women's Resource Center, Forward Montana, and currently Make-A-Wish Montana. Although she has loved her community involvement, Miranda is excited to move on to law school after taking a year off to travel. Miranda, everyone. And Laurel Naylor. Laurel is a senior majoring in community health and easy for me to say, in community health and prevention sciences and minoring in global public health. She is a UM advocate and a peer health educator. Laurel has traveled to Uganda with the Global Grizzlies to work at a local hospital, and her experiences at UM have made her excited to fight for social justice initiatives through health and wellness programs. Everyone, Laurel Naylor. How about one more round of applause to congratulate Autumn, Miranda, Laurel, and all of our scholarship winners, everyone. Now, it's my honor and pleasure to introduce to you the 19th president of the University of Montana, Seth Bodner. He'll say a few words, and then we'll present our awards to our distinguished alumni. Seth Bodner, everyone.
So, nobody came here to hear me speak tonight. And I'm very much aware of that. You know, we talk so often here, and I've shared it with many today, about the importance of telling the UM story. And I think it is so very clear that stories are so much better told in the lives of our graduates and the things that our students are doing right now. And we talk about the exceptional quality of this institution. It is, I agree with you, Evelyn, a terrific university. And it is so apparent as we get to learn about the lives of these fine distinguished graduates here and that are our future distinguished graduates here. So I am, so struck by the passion and the commitment of the many friends, some alums, some not, across this community. And keeping informed for all of you out here about what's happening on our campus and helping us tell the story of these great students is something that I'd like to ask this entire group here tonight. You know, you see the wonderful stories here. You see the wonderful students. Stay involved, stay connected. You know, the commitment of our alums, distinguished, those of you who actually been recognized as distinguished alums, but those of you who are distinguished alums in your own right, I'm so struck by the passion and the commitment that you have to this place, and it's so great here at Homecoming to see so many friendly faces, so many faces that I have already come to know in just the 9 months that I've been here. But we want you to continue to stay involved, continue to help us tell the story of this place, the wonderful work that our students, our staff, our faculty are doing, because it matters. As we've said many times, this is a great institution, an institution that the world needs to know about, and we need your help in that story, in telling that story. So, I said I went to each of our college open houses today for our distinguished alums, and we are technically honoring them with this award this afternoon, this evening. But frankly, they're honoring us. They're honoring us by their life's work. They're honoring us by the impact that they've had on the world. They're honoring us by being proud representatives of the UM family. So I want to thank you all for being here, but I also want to just once again thank our distinguished alums tonight for making us all proud to be part of this wonderful institution that we call the University of Montana. So thank you once again and congratulations.
Okay, we'd like to invite each of our distinguished alumni to come up and receive a little token of this evening. So, please welcome Ms. Evelyn Yeye Dada.
We'll hold that here, and we'll get a picture. We're going to look at Todd back in the back.
Those things are tough.
Take that. Yes, this is the time.
A dream I never had is being fulfilled today. So I still lack the words to express my reaction upon first learning that I was among those to be honored in the UM 2018 DAA. Thank you so much for the privilege that you have given me to say a few things in response. And in doing so, I crave your indulgence to be more personal than formal. So, first of all, in saying thank you very, very much from deep inside of me, I also do so like this, the way I was brought up. My working career in public administration goes back to 1973 with an organization owned by the 19 states of northern Nigeria, New Nigeria Development Company, Kaduna. In 1979, the company sent me for an in-service training at the Ahmadu Bello University Zaria, also in northern Nigeria, where I was one of the students of Professor Peter Kohn, a UM visiting professor, who encouraged many Nigerian students he taught at ABU to further their studies at UM. Today, I'm glad that I came here in 1982 for my graduate study. So much, if I may add, that when my daughter Grace, who was 7 months old when I left her in January 1982 for Missoula, was later to come to the US to study in 2001, there was only one choice, the University of Montana. Grace made the Dean's List, and in 2004, obtained a bachelor's degree with honors in sociology. In February 2006, she returned to Nigeria to work with the International Food Policy and Research Institute, IFPRI, up to Friday, April 29, 2011, before passing on to be with the Lord on Tuesday, May 3, 2011, 13 days to her 30th birthday. I take this opportunity to thank the University Authority for erecting a memorial brick in her honor. My entire team have been there again today to take a photograph. I know if Grace is seeing me today, and I know she is, she will say, "Mom, keep the fire burning." And I'm happy she came, and she also made it. I would like to humbly request that you visit www.graceadeogunfoundation.org to see how we have kept her memory alive. There is no tragedy that surpasses losing a child. But I thank God I'm still standing. UM's motto, Light and Truth, gave me an inkling of what being here was going to be like before I came. And I soon discovered the flesh around the skeleton, so to speak, in my interactions with my teachers and fellow students, the general ethos of the place, and even the wider community. Opportunities to bond grew in range and quality as I settled down in a new, strange environment. In some, coming to UM has invariably marked my perspective, commitment, and strategies in facing professional and personal challenges ever since. Work outside government with, among others, the American Peace Corps, the British Council, the United Nations in several countries, has afforded me a good measure of significant role. My field of public administration, along with others in which UN excels, can continue to play. Brief opportunities to continue to serve the United Nations. After retiring in April 2014, I've further strengthened my resolve to continue to be a good ambassador of UN. Country after country seeks to grapple with crises that are often very complex, that have long history, that result in tragic consequences, with proposed courses of action, urgent, but sometimes, unfortunately, enmeshed in controversies. At the critical human point in all of this, often stands administration. Good, and unfortunately, sometimes quite bad. I must leave these matters and congratulate my fellow senior awardees, distinguished in producing conducive environments and relationships for learning, extending frontiers of knowledge itself, deepening community strength. I salute you for the path you left me and others to tread at UM, and I value your inspiration still. I give glory to God for who He is to me and what He has done for me and through me, and for using you all at the University of Montana so wondrously in my life. I leave this podium wondering afresh, what does this great award demand that I commit to? And what do I wish UM? Again, I say thank you very, very much for today. Even as I express heartfelt gratitude to the one I genuinely and respectively refer to as the mother of foreign students at the UM, Efikon. God bless you.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Okay, please welcome Mr. Paul Lewing.
So I was telling President Bodmer this morning that I got pretty much a complete life out of the University of Montana. You'll see. So I have to thank some people. The first person I have to thank is my younger brother, Neil, who nominated me for this honor. Neil and his wife, Karen, own Port Polson Players up in Polson Theater Company, and they were the recipients of the 2016 Governor's Arts Award. And my older brother, Mark, worked his entire career for the state of Montana in the Department of Natural Resources and Conservation, and he has a Governor's Award for Employee Excellence in Job Performance from the Governor of Montana. So Neil didn't want me to feel left out by the state of Montana, and so he nominated me for this award. And then I have to thank my parents. My dad worked for 37 years for the Federal Post Office and hated it. And then he retired, moved to Montana, and he got a job running the mail room on the University of Montana campus. And he actually designed the mail room in the center over there. They don't use it anymore, and he loved that job. And he always told his sons that he didn't care what they did when they grew up, as long as they didn't have a job they hated. And my mother just assumed that it didn't matter what her three boys did, we would be the best. No pressure. You'll be the best. It was just assumed. So what they got was three guys with their absolute dream jobs, and we did real well at them. And I've already thanked the teachers that I had here at the University of Montana, particularly Rudy Audio, for giving me basically the basis for my entire career. I learned most of the philosophies and techniques and whatnot that I still use to make my living. One thing I didn't get while I was here was something like the professional practices class that I spoke to yesterday. And boy, am I glad to see that they get that now, because I really could have used it. And then, so yeah, and then, as I said, the most important thing I got from Rudy and the University of Montana was that my wife Ruth came here to study ceramics with Rudy. And we had our first date 48 years ago last Saturday. We've been pretty much inseparable ever since. And I did tell these ceramic students the other day that you wouldn't believe it, but if you wait till I finish these glaze tests, I'll buy you a beer. Actually worked as a pickup line. So she's the one that I really have to thank, because without her, I wouldn't be up here. Without her love and support, the life that I've had would not have been possible. So as you see, I got pretty much a complete life out of the University of Montana. And the only other thing that I've done in the last 50 years for money, other than make and sell and teach art, is that for 3 summers and 1 fall, I was a mule packer in the Bob Marshall Wilderness. And I learned how to pack mules in a 1-credit PE class at the University of Montana. So thank you very much.
Okay, please welcome Sarah Peck.
So they told me not to drop my microphone, and that's the most important thing. After college, most people, I'm going to get this a little closer. Oops. Can you? Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. After college, most people, or some people at least, they launch off into the field of study that they acquired here at the university. And some people, like myself, took sort of a circuitous route. When I was, all my life, I've wanted to study and learn about plants and animals underwater. I don't know why, but that's me. So when I started college here at the university, I joined a field trip led by Dr. Royal Bruce Brunson, I can remember his name, who was a limnologist. And after that, I knew I wanted to be in zoology. I wanted to major in zoology. However, my counselor told me that there are no jobs for women in zoology or limnology or any related fields like that. And so I'm being practical. He did say there are lots of jobs for teachers. So I became a teacher. And I taught actually at Paxson Elementary, which is just a few blocks away here. I liked teaching. Then after that, sort of began my unlikely route to the career I really wanted. I was an insurance agent. I was a real estate agent. I led marine life study tours for scuba divers and snorkelers for aquariums like Scripps and Steinhardt. And I did all of that from Libby, Montana. They used to ask me, how can you do this from Libby? And I would just sort of go on to the next topic, because what do you say? Eventually, I began working in Hawaii as an education specialist, and when I got my master's degree at a fairly older age, I was able to be employed as a marine and coastal resources extension agent for the University of Hawaii and become an actual faculty member. During that time, I was very pleased throughout those years to see that more and more women were in the biological sciences, natural history sciences, and all of the areas they could secure jobs in those areas. So I was very pleased to see that. I had to think in terms of my own job of ways to engage people, to create knowledge and create a supportive constituency. So I spent several years, as I told some other folks, providing public presentations that were called Reef Talks. I taught reef teachers and reef watchers, bringing together lots of people who had different opinions about things, but they all were volunteers or at least attending the talks and learning. And all the time they were learning, and that's education. And then finally, in the long run, we had a constituency of people who were well educated, and they worked with the Hawaii Fisheries Department to create the first ever community-based marine protected areas along the west Hawaii coastline, which you, by the way, may have seen more fish as a result of the fact that those marine protected areas are still working very well today. So my point here is just that we have to prepare people for change, and we have to have that, be that in business, science, technology, land use planning, whatever it is. We must provide them with facts, with knowledge, and with the understanding so they can really make informed decisions. I'm deeply appreciative of the help that Lana Batts, who I think is right down here, Lana and Joe, for submitting my name for this honor. And also Lana helped me put together assemble my huge application. As you know, I am very grateful for those who reviewed those applications, because I know how exasperating that can be when you have lots of other things going on and you have 16 or 17 applications to review. And most importantly, I thank my sons, my family, and my friends who have been so great at supporting me and encouraging me throughout the years. Thank you.
Please welcome Mr. William Marcus. Oh, yep.
Hello, thank you for coming to this event. I'd like to thank the Alumni Association, President Bodner, Wayne and Jed, and congratulations to Sheila and Sarah and Paul and Evelyn. To be among them is a great honor to me, and thank you very much for this. So people talk about why they ended up at UM, and you've heard a bit about that already today. I had friends who attended the university. I was attracted by the university's counterculture, free-thinking status in the late 60s, early 70s. There was family legacy as well, the Ross side of my family. Betsy Wilcox, my cousin, and John Ross, my cousin, graduates. Their father, my Uncle Jack, was a graduate of the law school here, as was John. So there was that connection to continue. And yes, I did take piano lessons because I promised my mother that I would do that. But it was just one more thing to get me to the University of Montana. And when my family brought me to UM in 1970, I was so excited to see people in tie-dyed shirts and guys with shoulder-length hair. And I had my hand on the door handle because I was sure my father was drive to Elrod Hall and just keep on driving. that I would never actually end up here. The second year of my as a student here was was probably one of the most important because I had the rare opportunity to be a student of one of the first of the intensive humanities programs, which was 12 credits of reading philosophers and sitting down with Henry Bugby, Tom Huff, and John Lowry. And looking back on that experience, which I didn't appreciate at the time, was just a really remarkable opportunity to understand the power of a college education and the kind of faculty and wisdom that existed on campus and that was shared with me as a student here. After that year, I was interested in photography as a hobby, and the best photography darkroom on campus was in the journalism school. So I went to Don Miller's office, the photography teacher in the J School, and asked if I could use the darkroom. And he said, yes, if you're a major, you can use the darkroom. So I said, hey, sign me up. And ended up in the radio television department. Phil Hess was the chair. Terry Conrad had recently been hired to come and teach and also develop public radio here. And it was just, again, a really wonderful opportunity to study, to be on the radio. My radio show was called The Euphonious Whale. And it's, you know, I graduated in 1974 at the same time that the university decided that it should go forward with a full-time public radio station. It was obligated to add staff, and I was in the right place at the right time. And the job just always became more interesting, more challenging. We got more resources, more facilities. And then I was, 20 years ago, 1995, chosen as the director of the Broadcast Media Center and had the opportunity to guide and protect and make sure that the talented people who work there, the producers, the journalists, the engineers, the fundraisers, and the office staff could work together to continue the vision of Phil Hess and Terry Conrad to serve Montana listeners and viewers. Public television had started by that time. Thanks to Jack Hippa at MSU, we put together a system that would be efficient and serve the entire state. But going forward, the kinds of programs that we were able to produce and that they still produce now, I think, has been an incredibly gratifying result of my time here to know that I was part of bringing that kind of important programming to this state. So again, thank you for this honor, and next year I'll be here as your moderator.
Please welcome Dr. Sheila Skem. It's way back there.
Taking the pictures is the hardest part.
You've got it.
Got it?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
It's a pleasure to share this platform with such incredibly distinguished, talented people. Even before I got here, I kept thinking, I'm here under false pretenses. And it's Roger Barber's fault because he nominated me, and I think of him as the miracle worker. Now that I've met these people, I know that I'm here under false pretenses, but I'm going to enjoy it anyway. So thank you. If you were to ask anybody who frequents the Oxford University YMCA and ask them, what are her passions? They'd have an easy answer. The logos on my t-shirts tell the story. I love two things, the Chicago Cubs and the University of Montana. The Cubs make me deliriously happy on rare occasions, about every 108 years. Most of the time they disappoint, big time. but the University of Montana has never, ever failed me. I owe virtually everything to this place, and it's a pleasure for me to be here to thank the university for all that it's done. Quite literally, this university changed my life and changed me. I arrived here in the fall of 1963 as a very shy, very insecure, extremely deferential, and conventional individual. I didn't question much of anything. I assumed authorities had all the answers, and they surely knew more than I did, which was probably true. If they told girls to be in the dorm at 10:30 on weeknights, at 1 o'clock on weekends, I obeyed. Girls could not wear nice slacks, much less jeans or shorts, to class or walk downtown. So we donned our mini skirts, no matter how bitterly cold it was outside, and obeyed. We weren't supposed to walk on the grass? Fine, that's what sidewalks were for. My political beliefs, quite uninformed to begin with, were typical, I think, of most white people raised in the 1950s. I truly believed that the United States was the finest, most honest, most innocent country in the world. We lived in a land where all men, and presumably all women, were treated as equals. We only entered wars to selflessly right all the wrongs in the world, but we ourselves never did anything wrong. We were the good guys. We wore white hats. By my junior year, all that had started to change. I marched to get rid of women's hours, something that actually happened a couple of years after we left. I participated in civil rights and anti-war demonstrations. I questioned everything. Okay, I still didn't wear jeans to class. But other than that, I was not the person I was at the beginning of my college career. Part of the changes that I experienced were changes that I think all of my generation experienced. We were children of the 50s. We were all becoming more aware in these years because so much was happening around us. John Kennedy was assassinated almost as soon as we arrived on campus our freshman year. Freedom Summer soon followed. And some of my classmates who were much braver than I was traveled to Mississippi to be part of that movement. Little did I imagine that I was going to end up in Mississippi myself. And I never would have believed it. The war increasingly became our focus as protests sprang up on campuses everywhere. Some of us smoked pot and even inhaled. We were fascinated by the free speech movement. These were things that affected students everywhere throughout the country. But for me, at least, many of those changes came about because of my specific experiences here. The university was small. It boasted fewer than 6,000 students. As a result, I was able to make so many friends, good, kind, smart, funny people who I still adore today. We didn't travel in nice, self-enclosed circles. I could be a member of the Peace Committee, for instance, and a member of a sorority, and nobody seemed to have that bother them. We all learned to spread our wings, explore different ways of looking at the world, see what fit, what worked, what didn't. We had the space to figure out just who we were and what we stood for. And we had wonderful, caring, nurturing professors. Our classes were small. We were recognized, cultivated, and encouraged. If students showed just a spark of interest, if they seemed at all worthy of attention, professors would seek them out, invite them to the lodge for a cup of coffee, ask them about their plans for the future, listen to them, and give them guidance. I will never, ever forget the day one of my professors casually asked me where I was going to graduate school. I'm sure my response shocked him. What, I asked him, is graduate school? I had no idea. And I surely had no idea that the answer to that question was going to change my life. What a relief it was to realize that I could keep on going to school, keep on learning, and they'd pay me to do it. Who knew? Not me. Without people like that professor and many more like him, and yes, they were mostly hims, my life would not have worked out as well as it did. William Butler Yeats once said, "Education is not filling up a pail, it is lighting a fire." I have to admit that the education I got here did quite a bit to fill my rather empty pail. Facts, no matter what anybody in positions of power might say, do matter. And I got a lot of those facts in my 4 years here. But more importantly, my education here lit a fire in me and in so many others of my classmates. It opened horizons. It challenged me to think long and hard about the meaning of those facts and to make me believe that if I had the opportunity, in some small way, I might light a few fires in students of my own. These were the professors whose example I tried very hard to emulate, not always successfully, but in my mind, they were and always will be the gold standard. Thank you very much.
You know, Evelyn used one of my favorite words. Hasn't it been a privilege to get to know them, and it's been a privilege to honor them? Please give one more round of applause for our Distinguished Alumni 2018. This now concludes our ceremony. We invite each of you to stay and celebrate here with us. We are going to take away this wall, and we have, hey, look, a cocktail party in the back. And special thanks to the Alumni Relations team for their work in organizing this very special event, and thanks to all of you for joining us this evening. The Alumni Association also invites you to celebrate all of our homecoming activities. Don't miss the Homecoming Yell Night Pep Rally that takes place after this event at 8 a.m. in the Oval, and the All Alumni Social at the Holiday Inn downtown at 9 p.m. Thank you all for coming, and good night.